Hey, how you doing? So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful horror effect to your images. So to achieve this, all I've done is manipulated some of the color within Lightroom. It's really simple and really easy to do, and you can do this in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to reset it all and walk you through the process. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just increase this white balance just to warm it up a little bit because it was slightly cold and slightly off. We're going to bring the exposure down just a little bit just so we can start to create that real dark mood effect. So to achieve that and to help us achieve that even more, we're going to bring the contrast down to around 72. That then just flattens the whole image and it gives us a really good starting point to build upon from on the other settings here. So I'm going to come to the shadows and bring them down to around -30, and I'm going to do the same with the whites. So I'm going to bring them down a little bit more to around -90. There we go. And then I'm going to bring the blacks up to around 95, 96 for this particular image. So you can see what I've done there is just completely flattened the image, and that's going to give us a really good starting point to then manipulate the colors and create some interesting effects. Let's come to the clarity and let's just bring that down to around, it was around -30. There we go. So again, we're just flattening the image, and then dehaze, I'm going to bring that up to around +38, around there. That's looking good. I'm going to bring the vibrance up a little bit because when I manipulate the colors later, I'm going to just want them to be a little bit punchier than what they are on their own. And I'm also going to bring the saturation down to around -20, 21. So that again is going to give us an image that is a little bit moodier and a little bit darker. Okay, so most of the heavy lifting has been done now to our image, and as you can see, all we've done is flattened the image. We've really brought down the shadows and brought up the highlights, and just kind of just really muted everything right down. And this is going to give us a good platform to start editing. So let's jump to the tone curve. And what I'm going to do in the tone curve is just apply a very simple edit. So I'm going to make 2 points down here, and I'm just going to bring the darks down a little bit to there, and I'm going to select the midtones. I'm just going to bring them down here. So what this is creating is that darker mood, so that horror mood that we're after, just creating a bit of an ambient kind of look to the image. So let's move on to the colors. So this is where we're going to do a lot of the manipulation. So I'm going to make 3 points. There we go. And I'm going to select the mid-tones here, and I'm just going to bring them slightly down. There we go. And then the next point here, I'm going to bring this across to about there. That's looking good. And then I'm just going to add another point down here, just so I can bring it down ever so slightly. So we've got quite a steep curve there. You can see what that's doing. So what I'm going to do is apply this to the other colors. So right click and copy channel settings, and then go to the green, paste channel settings, and then go to the blue, same again, paste channel settings. So there we go. We've now added some color back in there with the tone curve, and you can see what that's doing is really brought out a lot of the colors and started to give us our mood. So you can see how powerful the tone curve is in creating atmosphere in your image. So next up, we're going to jump to the HSL panel, and we're going to play around with the hue, the saturation, luminance, and just really manipulate the whole image. Now, when it comes to your images, these will be slightly different because every image is going to be different with the lighting. But what I show you is a really good starting point for you to then just fine tune and tweak for your own image. So the orange, then I'm going to start off in the hues. I'm going to bring the orange down just a little bit to around -5. I'm going to come to the yellows and I'm going to bring them down to around minus 58, 57, around that mark. And the greens, I'm going to bring them down. So I'm going to make the greens a little bit more yellow. Bring them to 81, 82. That's good. And then the aqua, I'm going to bring that up to around plus 18. And the blue, I'm going to push that up to about 35. And then the purple, I'm going to bring that down to around, it's about minus 80, around that mark, 78. That's pretty good. Then let's jump onto the saturation. So now we can really start pulling these colors out of the image to give us that real dark look that we're after. So minus 37 on the reds. The oranges are going to go down to minus 70. So quite a lot there of taking that orange out. The yellows, I'm going to increase them up a little bit just because there is some yellows in here that are quite nice. When it comes to the green, I'm going to bring that right down to minus 76 because I want to get rid of the green texture in there. I don't really like that. Then the aqua and the blue and the purple are pretty much the same, so around minus 60. So again, we're just stripping color away. There we go. So again, you can tweak these and get them absolutely perfect depending on what your image is doing. And then the luminance, the final part, so the brightness of the whole of the image. So let's bring these reds down again. Let's go to minus 84, I think it was, around there. And then the orange, I'm going to bring that up to plus 38. That looks good. And then the greens and the aquas, I'm going to bring them down to around 75, around that mark, 74, 75. So that's good. And then the blue, I'm going to push that up to plus 70 because of the sky. You can see there it's just come back a little bit, which is what we want. And then the purple, I'm going to bring that down to around minus 53, something like that. So you can see now on the HSL panel, what we've done is really started to tweak them colors and take a lot of that color away. Now, you may want to keep green in some of your images. You could do that. You could see what that does. But for me, I want to keep that out because I feel it gives it a bit of more of a moodier look. Okay. So now what we want to do is color grade the image. So we want to just add some colors in the shadows and the highlights. And to do that, I'm going to add a hue of around 175, around that mark. There we go. And I'm just going to push the saturation to around 5 or 6, around there. So 7, that's okay. So we're going for this blue look here. Let's jump to the highlights, and this time I'm going to add a bit of a green to it so we can kind of get that horror look. So blue and green kind of usually go hand in hand when it comes to horror stuff. So let's push this up a little bit higher though. Let's go to around 47, something like that, and let's push this to around there, so 99, 47. That works pretty well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the balance down, so I'm going to bring it down to around minus 75, and then the blending I'm going to bring that down to about there, so what's that, 38, minus 38. That looks pretty good. So if we look at what we've just done with the color grading, again, it's another leap. You can see there we've got more of a green and blue hue to the shot. Here we've got a lot more red in there, so that has given us that real sort of dark graveyard shift to the image. So it looks really, really good. So let's come down to the sharpening. I'm just going to add a little bit of sharpening, so around plus 12. That works pretty well. I'm going to move the radius up to 1.5 pixels, and the detail I'm going to move that up to 50, and then I'm going to hit the masking up to around 85, 86. So we just hold down the option key, just shows you what we are sharpening in the white areas there. That looks good. So that's really going to help. And then I think we could also add quite a funky post-crop vignette to this as well to make it look good. So let's bring this down to around minus 25, 26. Let's move the midpoint to around 10. And then the roundness, I think it's about there, minus 67, 68. That looks pretty good. And then let's push the feather up a little bit to around 71, 70. And the highlights, let's just push these up to around 40, something around there. That looks pretty good. And then last but not least, if we just look at the before and after of that vignette as well, you can see that's just a gradual vignette. It's not very heavy. The last thing I want to do is just come up to here because it looks like the image is not straight. So I'm just going to draw a line on there. There we go, just to straighten it, hit enter, and that's it. So that's all I've done to the image. So if you look at the before and after, you can see there, that's the effect you're going to get. It's quite interesting, and you get this real dark and moody horror vibe to your images. Now you can, if you want to, you can go a step further and come down to the very bottom where you've got calibration, and you can also play around with these primary colors here. You can see what that's going to do. Every time that you adjust these, you're going to get a very, very unique look to your image. So you can see there that if I push the hue up on the green, I can do that. I can pull the saturation out a little bit more. I can push it up a little bit more. And again, this is getting, in my opinion, now it's getting more sort of moody, dark. So we can change the blue primary and just push that up. Again, we can increase the saturation or decrease. And with this, what we're doing is we're changing the structure of the primary colors there. So that looks pretty good as well. So if we just go back a couple of steps, you can see what happens when you just change that. Well, I can just click on the before and after there. You can see that again has added another layer to it. So it's taken away that yellow, hasn't it? So again, there's more options for you to tweak and to play with to see what you prefer. But that's how you do it. I look forward to seeing your images. Any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.